I attempted to copy Lily Rose Depp's makeup from The Idol and like did the brown waterline thing, and now my eyes are burning. So we're off to a great start. So I've been watching The Idol, me and literally everyone else on YouTube and TikTok and just all of social media. And everyone has already made videos and content about it. I have a lot to say, and I had a lot to say from the first episode, but I said, I am not gonna come here and make a video and put my foot in my mouth talking about a TV series that has 6 episodes that are gonna come out, and I have only seen 1. And I am so glad that I held back, because my opinion on this show has kind of changed dramatically after watching the 3rd episode. In case you didn't know, The Idol is a TV series on HBO which follows the story of Jocelyn, a pop star who is struggling after the death of her mother and also wants to prove herself in the music industry as she meets this very sleazy man with a rat tail who kind of starts to manipulate her and abuse her. The Weeknd, Sam Levinson, and Reza Fahim are credited as the creators of this show. It's starring Lily Rose Depp as Jocelyn, the pop star, and The Weeknd as Tedros, the sleazy, rat-tailed club owner. There's also Jennie Kim from Blackpink, who plays the character of Diane, Rachel Sennott, who is playing the character of Leia, which is Jocelyn's best friend. And you might have seen her in Shiva Baby, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. I really like this actress. Also, there's Troye Sivan playing the character of Xander. The show has received a 5.1 rating on IMDb, which is very, very low, scathingly low, and a 27% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Again, embarrassingly low. And I would have to say that after watching the 3rd episode, I would definitely disagree with that. I think there's a lot of great things to this show that I was only able to notice after watching every episode a 2nd time. Yes, I did that to myself and I don't even regret it. After the 2nd viewing, though, I would say that for me, what still remains as a very negative experience watching this show is watching and observing this objectification of the character of Lily Rose Depp. That being said, I do want to be fair and give credit where credit is due, because everyone is just taking this massive dump on this show. And I think it's sort of unfair because there are so many things that I genuinely really like about it. I think that this show is doing a very fair and sharp and poignant and satirical critique of the music industry. The styling on this show is a 10 out of 10. Every single outfit that I've seen on Jocelyn, I have been like, I want that. Look up the price. Oh, it's 300 euros. Okay, never mind. But the styling done by costume designer Natasha Newman-Thomas, it's chef's kiss. Does she have the skimpiest outfits ever? Yes. Do I care? No. Does it bother me? No. Finally, the cinematography of this show is absolutely stunning. And one of the cinematographers, Marcel Rev, was responsible for the cinematography also for Euphoria. He was the one responsible for why this show was as successful as it was, because it definitely was not the storytelling or the female sexualization and objectification. No, maybe that also was the reason why the show was successful. A lot of people out there really love the concept of just sexualizing teenagers. And you would know that with a quick search on Pornhub. But anyways, A+ for cinematography. And even if the show was way worse than it is, I would keep watching it because I love watching beautiful television, beautiful movies, and my eyes are starved for beauty. So wherever I can find it, I'm going to watch it. If you're interested in learning more about cinematography and exploring that creative part of you, then you're gonna love today's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring and creative classes. And I've been using their platform for so many years now to explore and improve my own creative interests, from writing to photography, illustration, journaling. And did you know that Skillshare has hundreds of career-focused classes as well? Skillshare teachers will guide you step by step through turning your talent or ideas into a full-on career. Being a content creator means I'm constantly exposed to negative comments, and often that really takes a toll on the confidence I have in my creative voice. The class Unlocking Your Potential: 5 Exercises to Build Creative Confidence by author, broadcaster, and podcast host Emma Gannon has a fantastic exercise focused on identifying the patterns that lead to self-sabotage, and it was exactly what I needed to snap myself out of this negative self-talk cycle that I've been in lately. So get started with reaching your career goals this year year by clicking the link in the description, and the first 1,000 subscribers will get a 1-month trial of Skillshare for free. Huge thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. The other thing that for me, as a Libra, is very much appreciated is that this show has a gorgeous cast. I have always been just drawn to Lily Rose Depp's face. I think she has just absolutely stunning and unique features. She's not just a dry lettuce leaf on screen. She can act, and she can also sing, apparently. I'm fangirling a little bit for Lily Rose Depp, to be honest. And she is now in a relationship with a girl, and I love that for her. Also, this is the first role of Jennie from Blackpink. She's beautiful. I don't think she can act, but I'm happy to see her there. The dialogue is also, at second viewing, hilarious. It kind of went over my head watching the show the first time. I was paying a lot more attention the second time with the dialogue, and I was just laughing out loud all the time. And it's just like very goofy the way the side characters communicate with each other and the topics that they touch on. And it's also really smart as well in a very satirical way. And then of course, the music is great. The Weeknd, I've been following him since the beginning of his career. Basically, I've always loved his music. I think he's extremely talented when it comes to being a musician. He should really stick to making music, I think, because the acting is not ideal. I don't think that people have told Abel how good he is at music. He has not been validated enough as a musician, and now he's venturing out into acting, and we need to stop that. We need to put an end to that. So let's get into the juice. Let's get into the cringe. Let's start with episode 1, which is, in my opinion, probably the worst one out of all the 3 that I've seen so far. So Jocelyn, the main character, is introduced to us as an object posing in front of a camera while everyone else is talking about her and giving a lot of exposition about her character, which is a common theme in this series where other characters are talking about Jocelyn and we learn things about her through others and not through her, through experiences, through her emotion, through her dialogue, which to me kind of signifies how this character is treated throughout the entire series so far, where she is not given enough lines and enough opportunity to show us who she is. And most of the things that we learn about this character, who is supposedly the main character of this show, is through the dialogue of all the other side characters. So every other character has had a significant amount of lines at this point, besides Jocelyn, who is supposed to be the main character again. We need to keep reminding ourselves of that. And the first time that she speaks is when her tits start sticking out of her robe, and the intimacy coordinator of the photo shoot is trying to explain that they do not have permission for her to expose her breasts in this photo shoot, and in order to protect her, she will have to cover up. And this kind of leads to some pretty funny dialogue where Jocelyn is like, but I want to show my titties. Like, this is my body. This is my house. My door. Piss off.
Knocking on my door. What's wrong with?
It's interesting to me that the writers of this show decided to introduce this character to us, and the first piece of dialogue that she really has is her defending her desire to show her tits on camera. This is very obviously male gazy. This is very objectifying. This is showing us that we are going to watch a show where the main female character is an object that is sexualized by the object's writers, and the writers of the show are 100% male. Like, this show kind of exposes itself for what it is, which is in a lot of ways a male fantasy. And then once again, we're back to just watching Jocelyn on screen and not really hearing her talk, because now she is doing dance practice and everyone again is talking about her and giving us more exposition about her character. We get a lot of shots of her body in slow-mo, close-up of her slapping her ass. I think objectifying women on screen in this very J.J. Abrams kind of way is passé at this point, tacky and tasteless. I don't think that it is necessary anymore, especially the disassembled shots of someone's body are so unnecessary in 2023. We do not need a close-up of Lily Rose Depp slapping her ass. That doesn't add anything to the story. It doesn't further the plot. It's gratuitous. It's pointless. If someone wants to get off, they can just go and watch porn. We don't need that on a TV show. You know what I mean? Next, we're in the sauna with Jennie from Blackpink, and Jocelyn walks in and she starts smoking a cigarette in the sauna. I'm just confused as to who in their right mind would ever do that. I don't want to come off as judgmental. Maybe people smoke in saunas all the time, but it's just something that I would think is incredibly uncomfortable. And again, not much dialogue is said, just a few glances are exchanged, and we're back to glamour shots of Jocelyn on her cabriolet. She's going to the club with her friends, and we're getting just all of these glamour and beauty shots. And then it goes from meh to just terrible, because now Tedros shows up. This is the character played by The Weeknd. Tedros is supposed to be the owner of this club, and he just randomly shows up with his rat tail and starts dancing with Lily Rose Depp. And in a matter of like no time at all, he's telling her that he's basically falling in love with her. And she's like, but like, I don't even know you. And I'm like, oh my God. Okay. And immediately after that, they're basically boinking in a stairway, and they start bonding over like a quick conversation about pop music. And soon after, she's back at home and she is touching herself, DJing. I'll use that word from now on, but she's DJing and choking herself on her couch. Up until this point, we have just seen this woman being photographed, dancing in a club, boinking, DJing herself. It is a hard episode to go through and take it seriously, because this female main character is clearly, undeniably a character that is a male fantasy. And it's hard for me watching this to not just go like, you're just making this so you can get a lot of hot shots of Lily Rose Depp and just like DJ yourself afterwards when you're editing this show. This is what it feels like. And this is what a lot of this very male gazy and female objectifying TV shows and movies kind of feel like to me watching it as an adult. It just seems like all you want is just footage of a very beautiful young actress that you can use when you're alone at home and DJ yourself. When men do it, it's not really, it doesn't look like DJing. Washing a cucumber. The goal here is just to get nude or lewd footage of a young actress so you can wash your cucumber at home. That's what it feels like. It feels like the priority of this show is first to satisfy the sexual desires of the creators of it, and then what comes second is to tell a story. And this is what predominantly bothers me. But let's keep going, because this is now the first scene where Jocelyn really speaks a little bit more and says a few more substantial things about her character. That being said, her character just seems a little edgelordy. Once again, comes across very much like this is a character written by a man. The interviewer asks Jocelyn, so who do you answer to? And she like takes a very dramatic drag of her cigarette and just says, God. And I'm like, okay, girl, calm down. We get a little more dialogue from Jocelyn now, where she's talking to her friend Leia, and she expresses how the lyrics of her latest song feel embarrassing and kind of cringy. And she also says that she doesn't want people to make fun of her. And this is where I'm like, yes, can we please dive more into this? Talk about the correlation between fame and shame and how these two things are borderline crippling. Like, I have not seen this theme explored at all on TV, in movies, not on social media either. And I feel like maybe I should talk about it, because it is a very powerful and crippling emotion to be scared to put yourself out there because you don't want to be embarrassed, you don't want to be humiliated, you don't want to feel shame. And as someone that has been on reality TV and felt like just publicly humiliated on a national scale, I have a lot to say about that. So when that word of embarrassment was brought up, I was like, yes, I relate to this. Can we please discuss this further? And it's a theme that is brought up throughout the 3 episodes very briefly, and it's always leaving me just like begging to like dive deeper into this because I find it something that has not been tapped into. And it's the first time where I feel like this character is becoming a little more humanized and something other than a sexual object. But then, of course, the conversation has to switch to talking about Tedros. And Leia says that she finds him kind of rapey. And in the most male written response ever, Lily Rose Depp says, I kind of like that. And I'm like, said no woman ever. I mean, maybe there are women out there that are like this. I have not met any of them. And what I also get by this is that Jocelyn's character is mainly there to serve the plot. There is a plot, there is a story that it needs to be followed, and this character is going to be warped and turned into anything needed to further the plot. And I think that's just poor character writing. Tedros comes over and there's this menacing music playing in the background, and I'm just not buying it because I just do not feel scared when I look at The Weeknd. I don't think anyone feels scared when they look at The Weeknd. This man has the sweetest looking face. He has round teddy bear looking eyes. He just has a Cabbage Patch kind of cute little baby face. And it's such poor casting. So anyways, Jocelyn plays her song to him, and a really funny line is brought up when Jocelyn mentions that the song is called I'm a Freak, and she's, critiquing it. And then Tedros suggests you could release I'm a Nun instead. And I just found that so funny, the idea of a song called I'm a Nun being out there. I want someone to write that song. Confession, I have been listening to that song, I'm a Freak, World Class Sinner, every day. And dancing. I'm not ashamed. I have no shame anymore. I've been publicly humiliated on a national scale. I don't have the capacity to feel shame anymore. So yes, there you go. I like the song in like a sarcastic kind of way. And I learned the dance routine. Don't judge me. Anyways, he chokes her out and she likes it. And that is the first episode. A lot of the shots in this first episode, once Tedros is introduced, are from his perspective, which is a little bit confusing to me because I thought Jocelyn was the main character here. When we are getting shots of Jocelyn from Tedros' perspective, but we're not getting shots of Tedros from Jocelyn's perspective, what this show is telling us essentially is, through the way that it's filmed, like, look at this woman. Sexualize this woman, but they're not showing us the inner world of Jocelyn and how she views Tedros, which is like, why are you giving us the perspective of Tedros if he's not the main character? Now, in episode 2, we start off with Jocelyn just gathering her whole team together, and she announces that she wants to play the World Class Sinner edit that she made last night with Tedros. And the scene is very cringy and funny, and I like that it's more lighthearted. But then we go straight back into edgelord mode. Like, this character, Jocelyn, is just not left alone for a minute without being either sexualized or abused in some kind of way. Her manager starts berating her for having the audacity of editing a perfectly okay song, how much debt she's getting them in general, what a nuisance she has been ever since her mom died, which she talks a little bit more about that. And she opens up about how it's been hard without her, but we are literally just getting breadcrumbs of insight about this character. And then she's choking herself and DJing herself again. The show literally cannot go a minute without sexualizing her. It's like, okay, we'll give you a few breadcrumbs about this character, but don't you worry, we'll have her DJing herself in no time, okay? Don't you worry. Now it's time for Jocelyn to film her music video. We get a lot of side character commentary, which is pretty funny. And we also get more exposition about her and her mom and her mental state through other people talking about her. And humiliation that I mentioned before is brought up again, and how she keeps asking for them to film the video clip again and again and again because she wants to get the shot right. And she mentions how, you know, she doesn't want to be humiliated. And I'm like, just let's talk more about that, please. Can we dive into that? Can we explore this? No, of course not. Diane, the character that's played by Jennie from Blackpink, is also plucked out from the group of dancers. And we see that they're setting this up as her becoming a threat to Jocelyn. Jocelyn becomes really exhausted after filming the music video again and again. Her feet are bleeding, her thighs are bleeding. She's just calling out for her dead mom. She's a wreck. She's crying, she's falling over. They cancel the shoot. And we now are at Tedros's club, and Jennie from Blackpink is there. And we find out that Diane has kind of been colluding with Tedros. And I feel so bad for Jennie from Blackpink because they made her say the line, "Is she a better f than me?" What woman talks like that? Why did they make Jennie say that even in the first place? Once again, it seems to me like the women that are the most quote unquote on this show are also the ones that get the least amount of depth, the ones that are pitted against each other. These tropes are exhausting. Also the ones that are the most objectified and sexualized, and we do not dive into their characters at all because they remain a mystery and they just remain this object of male desire. I personally don't want to see this trope of just female frenemies and friendship betrayal of a woman towards another woman. I think these tropes written by men are pretty toxic. I think they definitely come from a misogynistic place and a complete lack of understanding of female friendships. And I'm just tired of it. And then we get more sex, of course, which is gratuitous, adds nothing to the story, has no point, and does not further the plot in any way. But we do get to listen to The Weeknd say, "Stretch that tiny little and I'm ready to unzip my skin and crawl out of it and light it on fire." He's almost like character assassinating himself at this point because he is not meant for this part and he does not have the ability to pull off this role. So it just all comes out very inauthentic and very unbelievable and very cringy. Even though I really like The Weeknd and I love his music, I just don't think that he's right for this part at all. And a lot of people online agree with me. So I'm right. Now moving on to episode 3, which is my favorite episode so far and the internet's worst episode so far. So this is where kind of our opinions differ dramatically, but I laughed so much with this episode. I just feel like a lot of people did not get the humor of it. And also a lot of people were triggered by the ending of it. Anyways, you know, trigger warning, the episode gets pretty violent at the end, but before it gets violent, it gets so funny. I can't wait. I can't wait to get into this episode because they are now going on a shopping spree. Leia is in the front of the cabriolet and she's driving. And in the backseat, Tedros and Jocelyn are making out and they're basically boinking and he's going down on her. And then The Weeknd at some point just complains about Leia's driving. He's like, "You're really slamming on those brakes, aren't you?" And like, this is the type of dialogue that I just find very entertaining and fun to watch. But then they go to Valentino and Tedros bullies the poor Valentino employee for just no reason at all because he's just like the most toxic and insecure man ever. And that is also funny to me. And then we get a flashback to earlier the same morning where Tedros calls Leia the R word and he tells her that he is the one running this show. And with his Cabbage Patch baby looking face, it's just the funniest thing watching this adorable looking man trying to like spread horror and fear into the souls of all of these like young adults. And I'm like, how is this working? If The Weeknd looked at me with his like cute little teddy bear face and was like, I'm running this show now, I'd be like, LOL, dude. Okay, calm down. Like, maybe we should cut off that rat tail first and then just talk about who's running the show. And all I can think about when The Weeknd is trying to play up this like very toxic, macho, scary looking man is this meme of a little girl that's looking at her parents and she's like, I'm evil. Just kidding.
I'm evil.
Whoa.
I'll make everybody witches and bats and vampires.
And make them all sassy like you?
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. I won't.
But then after that, we get the funniest scene of all time where Jocelyn's chef comes into the shot and he's like, so how have the probiotics been working, Jocelyn? And she's like, oh, how have the probiotics been working? Let me show you. And she like lifts her shirt and she's like, look at how the probiotics are working. Look at how flat my stomach is. I'm sorry, but it's so funny. And then the chef is like running his hands on her stomach. He's like, whoa, 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 whoa. And it goes on for like what feels like a minute of him just going over her abs and her flat stomach with his thumbs. And then they pan to a shot. It's just so funny because all you see is just his hands on her stomach and The Weeknd in the background just kind of twitching and losing his shit. And like, he's so goofy, the man. he karate chops the air. He's like, boundaries. Okay, so he like karate chops the air, right? And he's like, boundaries. And then he slaps the chef out of nowhere. And everyone's like, holy shit. And then he says, you're fired. And he's like, I only answer to Jocelyn. And Jocelyn's like, well, I guess you're fired then. That is the moment that I was like, I'm sorry, but this show is great. I don't know what all of you are saying on the internet. This is entertainment to me. Just, I want a meme. I need a meme of The Weeknd just karate chopping the air and just go, boundaries. We're back at Valentino and they're boinking in the changing room and she lets him finish on his own and then she calls him disgusting. And I'm like, girl, you're also very feral. Don't think you're better than him, okay? And then they drive back to Jocelyn's house and her manager is there with, I think, his assistant. And there's kind of a standoff about to happen and it's filmed like a Western. And that is also extremely funny. The Weeknd walks out of the car and he kind of lowers his zipper to expose, I think it's a cross. And then Jocelyn's manager pulls out his Jewish star and he's like, oh, okay, I can do this too. And that was also like filmed in a very comedic way. And I appreciated it. They sit down to talk and everyone is sitting on the couch except for Jocelyn, who is like perched on the coffee table like an ornament once again. And I'm like, why? And then they boink again, because no amount of boinking on this show is ever enough, I guess. And then we get to the dinner scene, which I love the tension in this scene. As mediocre as The Weeknd's acting is, the scene was written well enough for that to not be distracting. And I was just like at the edge of my seat watching this scene unfold. So it starts with them bringing up and suggesting the idea that Jocelyn uses a photo of herself with frosting on her face that went viral in the first episode. I didn't mention that because it's not really important, but it's brought up now. And it's suggested that they use this photo as her album cover. And humiliation is brought up again. This is the third time that this is brought up. This is a common theme, and it clearly is a motivation of this character to not be humiliated. She said it in every episode, and we have yet not dived into it. And I will be very disappointed if this theme is not further explored in the next 3 episodes of this series, because this is clearly written as something that is this character's deep motivation. And we're not exploring it at all so far. And that's very disappointing to me. And then Jocelyn opens up about her mother's abuse and how she used to beat her with a hairbrush. And then Tedros suggests that it's a fantastic idea for him to beat her with a hairbrush in front of everyone. And she agrees, and everyone agrees to go along with it. And the scenes of her being consensually abused, because she did consent to it. She is an adult woman written clearly by a man that wants her, for the sake of the script, to consent to this. I don't care. But what I find disturbing in that scene was the fact that there were 2 fireplaces in her mansion across each other, and they were both lit and blazing on what felt like a really hot day in Hollywood. So this is what I'm gauging from this. Because they're not going to give us much because like Jocelyn is never going to really give us much as a character about her mental state. She's not written as a character to be deep enough to do that for us. So we're going to have to gauge from either what everyone else is saying about her or the state of her house. And from those 2 lit fireplaces, I know that girl is not in a good place mentally at all. I didn't feel bothered by that scene, mainly because like so far Jocelyn's character is so just confusing. And the way that she's written is either to satisfy the male gaze or to just further the plot, that she's not even like a real person anymore. No matter how hard like Lily Rose Depp acts her little heart out, she's not going to be able to save a character that is written with just, I wouldn't say malicious intentions, but very selfish and egotistical intentions from the side of the writers of this character. Trying to understand who Jocelyn is, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and they pointed out that she is just every girly in her Lana Del Rey era. And I'm like thinking about that and I'm like, what does that mean? Okay, it means like she is emotional, she's sensual, she's vulnerable, she's in her dark feminine energy, she's damaged. So that's all the words that I would use to associate with a girl in her Lana Del Rey era. And I'm like, yes, that kind of does describe Jocelyn. That being said, Jocelyn's character is so clearly written as a man cosplaying as a woman in her Lana Del Rey era. And because it's so obvious, it really just doesn't do the character any service, because the character, from the person that is writing her, she is objectified. She is not seen as a fully fleshed out human being. She's seen as this sexual object and portrayed as that in the series. And I think that's the most damning part of this show as well. The fact that they did not give the character of Jocelyn any grace to become a real person. And they just wanted to serve their own egotistical needs of wanting a hypersexualized female character that is very damaged and just so vulnerable that she will be subjected to literally anything that they want to subject this character to. And I also think to an extent that like this is a character that wants to be abused physically. And I'm sure that like there are women out there that might have like some type of sub-dom kink fetish, whatever. And I don't think that Sam Levinson or The Weeknd, again, are in a position to be able to convincingly write a female character like that. Like even me as a woman myself, I do not have really the capacity to understand the complicated nuances and in general, like what type of character would be a woman that wants to be beaten up. You know, what type of character and what personality is a woman that just has these fetishes? And I feel like if you don't know about something, don't write about it. I don't need to sit here and write a thesis about why objectification of women in media is harmful. I think we all can surmise all the reasons why, but there's plenty of research that, you know, kind of proves that point. Let me just pull up a few that I have over here. From the Society for Research on Adolescence, it results in self-objectification, body dissatisfaction, sexist beliefs that are either by women for themselves, or other people just having just negative judgments of sexualized people. It also leads to tolerance of violence against women, blaming women for their own sexual victimization, expressing attitudes that support rape and sexual harassment, and actually engaging in sexual or gender-based harassment, and objectified sexual experiences. Boys exposed to sexually objectifying media are more likely to focus on the body size and shape of girls they want to date and are more anxious about their own appearance. Youth of all genders may be more self-conscious of their body while engaging in sexual activity. I think a lot of reasons why the portrayal of Lily Rose Depp's character specifically falls flat is because it's written by 3 adult men that, don't really have much of a comprehension of what it's like to be a pop star in the music industry, who is also very psychologically damaged and also has like some type of abuse kink or fetish. And I do think that like The Weeknd obviously has been in the music industry for a very long time and has witnessed a lot of this, but his role has always been a side character in these stories, whether it's through him, observing Selena Gomez's experiences while he was dating her, or through him working with Ariana Grande and Lana Del Rey and like learning more about their experiences through talking to them, or, just maybe dating Bella Hadid and getting a different side of another industry and how toxic that is. In all of these situations, he has observed a lot, but he has always been a side character. And I think that's also the reason why in this story, we get a lot more nuanced takes from the side of the side characters, because The Weeknd has been a side character in this story. He's not writing about himself. He's writing about the women that he has observed in this industry. And I think this is why the show is succeeding so much in the way that the side characters are being portrayed, and also failing in the way that the main character is being portrayed. But as much as I like this show, it really is no White Lotus to me, which for me, one of my favorite shows of all time has now become The White Lotus. The reason why The White Lotus worked so well as a one-man show with Mike White writing it is because he wrote fully fleshed out female characters with depth, with nuance, that are not objectified. And he did the same thing for his male characters. He did not insert himself in this story and pretend to be an actor so that he can prove to the world that he also has like some incredible acting talent. He knew what his skills were. He stick to that. And then for the roles, he hired the right people to play them. And when you're watching The White Lotus, you're never taken out of the story and being like, oh, this is what Mike White is trying to tell me or convince me of, or like prove to me. He is invisible. He wrote the story, he wrote the characters in the most honest way possible, and he gives it over to us to interpret it and to understand it in our own ways. And I think that is the most intelligent and purest way to make art. On the other hand, a very selfish creator of a show is going to insert himself in the story in order to like prove that he has talent. He's going to either explore his own sexual fantasies and kind of sacrifice the plot and the characters in the story so that they can get like the shot of the tits that they want so that they can wash their, cucumber back at home. An example for this is Quentin Tarantino when he does all of the feet shot in his movies. They are gratuitous, they are annoying, and they are offensive to me as an audience because I'm like, oh, right now I'm taken out of this movie and what's happening is that I'm just sitting here as an audience member for you to just kind of explore and enjoy your personal kinks. And I don't want that. I'm here to be entertained. I'm here to be kind of engulfed in this story and kind of taken out of reality and into this fantastical world that you have created. And if you're not going to respect me as an audience and just allow me to be immersed in this world, and instead you're going to pull me out of it every like 10 minutes because you want to explore your sexual fantasies, or you want to prove something to me, or you want to push a certain belief that you have or an opinion that you have on me, and you're taking me out of the story to do that, then that's a failure on the creator of the show, or on the writer of the show, or on whoever is responsible for this happening. And I think that not only with the gratuitous, sex scenes on The Idol and The Weeknd's acting, and also the inability to write Jocelyn as a realistic female character and respect her and allow her to be that, we're constantly pulled out of the story. And I find that to be probably just a failure on the artist's part. That being said, I do want to point out that I am not offended by the nudity on the show, because a lot of, I think mostly Americans, tend to be really triggered by female nudity in television. I think that if Lily Rose Depp was not comfortable with doing that, she would not do it. I think also she is born and raised in France, if I remember correctly, or at least she's been raised in France, and people there have a very liberated view on nudity. These people, I'm like, these French people, these frogs now. French people are just literally hanging out on their balcony, smoking cigarettes, naked all the time. They're very comfortable with their bodies and comfortable with nudity. And Lily Rose Depp, being raised in that culture, I think she's very okay with her body. And I don't think she feels shame with showing it on TV. I think that a lot of people that have been raised with this shame tied to nudity kind of project their own shame onto a lot of women that show, a little more than what's normal on TV. And on top of that, she's also very rich. Her dad is Johnny Depp. If she, again, didn't want to do it, she has the option to not do it. She has the option to never work again in her life. The Idol kind of reminds me a lot of the Netflix show Maestra in Blue, which is a Greek Netflix series that I watched during the winter, which is absolutely cringe-worthy. And if you want to watch another show where the female character is fully objectified and just a sexual object, and there is the creator of the show is inserting himself as an actor in the show and failing miserably at it, Maestra in Blue is literally that. And in that show, what we see is the film director and writer of the show, who is also playing the main male character, trying to prove to us that huge age gap relationships where the woman is in her teens and the man is pushing 50 is totally acceptable, and we are all now Puritans for not being okay with that. And I think that that is a story, again, that can only be told from a female perspective, who is in the position to say, yes, I consent to this. I am empowered by this, or I am okay with this. I don't feel like there is a huge power imbalance here. I think the person whose power imbalance is set against them is the one who is responsible to speak up on a topic like this, not the man that is pushing 50 and has this fantasy of boinking a teenager, being yeah, we're just all being very Puritan and we need to just embrace love is love and it sees no age. And shows like this, really, the reason why I love watching them is because they give me so much confidence as someone who I do consider myself a storyteller, and I am trying to write a book, because I love nothing more than watching men just kind of succeed at failing, making mediocre art, and yet still that being extremely popular and embraced by people. The stuff that they make is so transparent about their motivation on why they're making it. It's you're not trying to tell me a story. You're just trying to boost your ego. You're trying to get footage of yourself boinking a hot, famous actress, and you want the opportunity to just grab her tits consensually. And so you're going to write that in the script. And just their narcissistic motivations for these shows are so obvious and unnuanced. And it kind of gives me hope that no matter how bad of a writer I am, I cannot be worse than that. So yeah, I'm gonna absolutely keep watching The Idol, not only for the amazing styling and beautiful cinematography and also beautiful cast and really funny and satirical kind of side character dialogue, but also because I just love watching men embarrass themselves. And in a lot of ways, I think this show, as much as I like it, I think it's also kind of an embarrassment for The Weeknd and for Sam Levinson. Anyways, I want to know what you think about the show, and do you agree? Do you disagree with me? If you feel like this was time well spent, keep in mind that it takes me a whole week to make this content for you, to produce it, research it, script it, edit it, and all that stuff. And there are very simple ways to show your appreciation to a content creator that is giving you free content. And one of them is hitting the like button, commenting below, hitting the notification bell to get updated when I post new videos, and of course, subscribing for more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye.